This is BBC News. I'm Laquesta Burak with the latest headlines for viewers in the UK and around the world. The search for hundreds of people still missing following devastating floods in Germany and Belgium continues. The German president has been visiting one of the stricken areas.
Our country stands together during this time. I'm very pleased to see just how much sympathy and solidarity is being shown, not only here in the region, but also throughout.
And I'm Kasia Madeira, live in Erstadt, where the president has indeed been visiting in Western Germany, one of the worst affected towns in this region, where the recovery operation is now underway.
Also today, the UK's Health Secretary Sajid Javid says he's tested positive for coronavirus and is experiencing mild symptoms.
I was feeling a bit groggy last night, so I took a lateral flow test this morning and it's come out positive. So I'm now self-isolating at home with my family until I get the results of a PCR test.
Olympics organisers announced the first case of coronavirus in the athletes' village 6 days before the Tokyo Games begin. Hello and welcome if you're watching in the UK or around the world. Rescue crews have been racing to find survivors after the floods that wreaked havoc in Germany and its western neighbours, Switzerland, Luxembourg and the Netherlands. At least 160 people are so far known to have died across Europe, some 140 of them in Germany alone. Hundreds remain unaccounted for and thousands are now homeless. Well, thousands of residents of Wassenberg, an area west of the German city of Cologne, have left their homes after a dam was breached by floodwater overnight. German officials say the country's flood warning system functioned as it was supposed to, but the amount of rain and how rapidly it fell was unforeseen. Well, let's cross now to the village of Erstadt and my colleague Kasia Madeira. And Kasia, I suppose it's all about the clean-up now.
You're absolutely right, Laquesta, and what a clean-up, what a lot of devastation, a lot of shock in this part of Western Germany, the two states most affected by the floods that absolutely decimated pockets of these parts of this region. Erstadt, just up the road from here, is one of those towns that has been hugely impacted. 3 times there was a collapse, a landslide, buildings collapsed in the centre of town, and then this bypass just behind me, which was completely flooded. We have been monitoring the whole rescue and salvage operation throughout the day of around 30 to 40 cars, vehicles that have been completely immersed in water. The military has been backing up the police and the fire services, and around 20,000 rescue personnel have been mobilised to help in what is a huge effort. Well, the president of the country was here a little bit earlier on in Erstadt talking about the recovery operation, sending, of course, his condolences for the loss of life here and across this region, and also showing support to the people that have lost so much here.
This is a time of distress, and our country stands together during this time. I'm very pleased to see just how much sympathy and solidarity is being shown, not only here in the region, but also throughout Germany.
Well, there is a lot of solidarity. A lot of volunteers have been coming together, have been offering supplies, care centres setting up to help rescue people who just have absolutely nothing. Buildings totally collapsed, homes washed away, vehicles, like I say, there were cars stacked up here by the force of water that came down here as if they were just simply toy cars. It's quite staggering to see. But the rescue operation is underway and people are beginning to return to look at assess the level of damage as these people have been.
Es ist komplett zerstört.
Everything is destroyed. You don't recognise this area anymore. Before, this was a green oasis, a natural landscape, and the only thing you could hear was the calm waters of the river. That's all gone. It's a catastrophe.
If you had told me 4 days ago that there could be a flood here, I'd have said maybe it will be only in the basement. But this flood was 2.5 meters high. The antique books are ruined forever.
I emptied the house and thrown everything out. Everything. There is nothing left. Water's everywhere. All these things were new, just 3 months old.
I'm waiting for the insurance agent, just like everyone else. I hope the process will be quick so we can rebuild and get back to work, especially after COVID-19. We only reopened 2 months ago.
It's absolutely staggering to see the level of destruction, given that this was a flood that took place in the space of around 24 hours. But if you think about the amount of water that fell, 2 months worth of water in the space of such a short period of time, the local areas were just simply not able to cope. It's not just Western Germany, of course. We have to think about the Netherlands, also Belgium, hugely impacted. The town of Liège is one of those places that has seen destruction as well. My colleague Anna Holligan reports from there now.
This is the River Meuse, and if you look carefully here, you can see some of the debris that's being carried downstream, and the smell of oil, the stench, is something that you can smell all around here. This is the Belgian city of Liège, and rescue workers were sent from Italy, France and Austria to help with the recovery effort here and the evacuations too. Most people are now returning to their homes, but the Belgian Prime Minister has declared the 20th of July a national day of mourning. At least 20 people have been killed here alone. They say they have never experienced catastrophic floods of this scale before. Now, across the border, not far from here, in the Netherlands, the emergency services are still trying to reconnect the power supplies. But there, so much of the country lies 10 metres below sea level. They have so much experience and talent in managing the rising tides. And what the last few days has demonstrated, this extreme rainfall, that even the most sophisticated technology will struggle under this kind of pressure. Experts have said it should be a wake-up call. Politicians across the continent have blamed climate change. But what so many people in this region, here in Liège, in Limburg, which has been classified as a disaster area, and beyond, what they want to know now, they want assurances from those politicians that something like this can never happen again. Well, assurances that people in Germany also want to hear. Our thanks to Anna Holligan there in Belgium, reporting on the devastation there, as she mentioned, the Netherlands as well. But it's here in Western Germany where the highest death toll is, and these pockets of devastation that we're seeing in places like Erftstadt, just up the road. Another town that was hugely affected in the same state that we're actually in now is Hagen, and we can speak to Moritz, who is Moritz Friedenberg, who actually works. He's a journalist at Radio Hagen. Moritz, I know we spoke to you over the past few days in terms of when this first initially happened. It's good of you to join us once again. Just talk us through the situation in Hagen, because given what we're seeing in Erftstadt, the clean-up operation is taking place, recovery is taking place, but it's just been absolutely devastating for the local community.
For sure. First, the good news, the water level keeps dropping and there was no heavy rain for 3 days. The people are very happy about it. But how you actually said, the real work, the main work has to be done now. Streets are destroyed, lots of people are without a home, the people lost their property, and it's a really mean situation, and it will last for days, maybe for weeks.
Absolutely. And can you tell us about the power situation there? Because we know that homes here still are having power outages, many homes still without power. But at one point there were over 100,000 households without power. What's the situation like with you, Moritz?
Yeah, on Wednesday night there was the same situation. There was a complete blackout, there was a shutdown in Hagen. But now the electricity, the power comes back. So lots of houses have gas, have water, have electricity again. But it comes back and back shortly because there are still lots of basements which are full of water, and you can go to the stations there to make it better now. So it's a really difficult situation, and the people will need lots of time to recover from it.
Absolutely, a lot of time, a lot of support. People are rallying around and there are so many volunteers. The newspapers, though, calling this the flood of death. Moritz, have you ever seen something like this in your lifetime in this area?
Never. That was the heaviest rain I've ever seen. It was like floodings who take cars, who take trees. It was unbelievable. I can't describe it. So no one have thought that this rain would be that heavy, that there would be this floodings. And yeah, I can't describe it. You have seen the pictures. It is really hard. And I think the politics and the city will make lots of changes to provide these catastrophes, you have to say it. Yeah, it is a catastrophe.
Well, it's certainly how Angela Merkel described it. Fritz Friedenberg speaking from Radio Hagen, a town not far from here, actually, also devastated. Thank you so much for your time for the time being. So like Luquesa, like Moritz was saying, there's still a lot of shock, an awful lot of questions, but the recovery situation, the recovery efforts are beginning. They are underway, and we've been here throughout the whole course of the day. Most of this road, this bypass behind me, had been completely flooded. But as you can see, there are so many cars now that had been removed. That grim operation to discover if there are any remains, thankfully not here. Everybody was able to get away safely from the rains, but the sheer force of the rains, there are metal signs that have just been completely bent under the sheer force of the water that had gushed through here. It just shows, Luquesa, the level and the intensity of the water flooding through this area.
Indeed. Kasia, I was reading that one of the highest priorities for the German government was the restoration of the mobile network. What sort of issues has that caused for both residents and the emergency services?
Absolutely huge issues when it comes to the mobile networks. We've had intermittent breakages in mobile networks. It is much better at the moment, and at the beginning of the day there were talks of fears of up to 1,300 people unaccounted for still missing, so there was a lot of concern about what had happened to them. The mobile networks are improving a lot right now, so those people that have been able to communicate with their loved ones have managed to do so. So those figures are dropping, but people still concerned about the whereabouts of their loved ones. Of course, it's understandable, but the very much the power is attempts are being made to get the power back on. A lot of generators have been driven down here to try and make sure that people do have power, so that they can communicate with each other, so that if anyone's still unaccounted for, they can get messages to their loved ones, because of course an awful lot of concern over the destruction here. You are watching BBC World News.